how can someone improve their house and improve their car and improve their
social status
and improve their resume and improve their whatever boat,
material things,
but they can't improve themselves?
If someone who has low self-worth and low self-belief gets kind of illuminated to something that they don't believe that they can change, or they don't believe that that should exist, it's going to feel like an uphill battle. Conscious couples, business partners, and singles committed to attracting their dream partner. Welcome to the Conscious Couples podcast, where we share our life, love story, and combined relationship expertise to help you create and consistently cultivate the most magnificent, intimate relationship possible.
Never again will you feel hopeless and alone in your intimate relationship challenges.
Having accumulated thousands of hours coaching conscious couples and individuals all over the world, as well as starting and growing a global business together, Alan and I are here to guide you in all things relationships.
Thank you again for tuning into the one place where it's not about you or me, it's about the we. Conscious couples and individuals, welcome back to the one and only Conscious Couples podcast. Today, we have episode number 124. Does your relationship see conflict as good or bad? That may make or break a lot for you and your partner. Before we jump into this episode, I want to give a special shout out to the Next Level Podcast Solutions. I slurred a little bit there. A super special shout out to Next Level Podcast Solutions for producing this show. Personal growth, personal development, self-improvement, mental health. Thank you for spreading all of the wonderful things, professional development, into the world. We really appreciate you. As always, my love, ladies first, what is your intention for today, this episode?
My intention for today's episode is twofold. The first fold is for those of you who are listening, those of our amazing listeners who are listening to this episode today. If you are someone who finds yourself in the bucket of growth mindset and someone who actually sees conflict as a good thing, I want to affirm the heck out of you and let you know that it is in fact a great thing. And then the second fold of my intention is for those of you who might find yourself, give or take, in the fixed mindset bucket right now. That doesn't mean that you have to stay there. And if you happen to see conflict as a bad thing, this is the episode for you, because conflict, like I mentioned in the event that we're going to do a little bit, pull in some of the sentiment of the recap. Conflict is one of the most key important elements of an extraordinary relationship. And I think that we all need to talk about it a little bit more.
A couple little metaphors before we jump in. The first one is, I always say, an axe can cause massive harm to someone, or you can use it as a tool to build a house. Conflict in and of itself, the axe in and of itself, is not the problem. It's the person who's wielding it. And so if you feel like conflict has been bad in your relationship, is that because it's inherently bad? Is it because you're handling it poorly? So conflict isn't good or bad. It's healthy conflict and unhealthy conflict. It's constructive conflict or destructive conflict. And again, back to the axe metaphor, destructive would be an axe hurting someone. Constructive would be an axe building a home. Metaphor time. That's what that was.
Yes.
Okay, so in the event, this is kind of an event recap. So we just had our 36th Relationship Talks event in a row. That's 3 full years. That was our 3-year anniversary. We gave this huge ceremony. I'm kidding. We gave this huge shout out, a little bit, to all the people that have participated. So if you're out there watching or listening to this and you have been to a Relationship Talks event over the last 3 years, thank you so much. We've learned so much from you. We've learned so much from our own mistakes. We've also learned so much from what we have done well. And it has been a hell of a love train and a journey of just learning and growth. And I really do wish we could see how bad we were at event 1 compared to event 36, because now we've got multiple monitors going. She's in the room in her computer. I'm on my computer. We've got the chat up. We've got everything's going. We got it going on. Our virtual events, babe,
are amazing.
Are awesome. Yeah. So if you haven't been to one, shame on you. I'm kidding. If you haven't been to one, check out the next one. We're going to plug it at the end. Okay. So in these events, we always learn a bunch, and then we want to bring that back to the listeners who were not there. So there was a question that was asked in the chat during Relationship Talks event number 36. How do you suggest dealing with relationships where when you try to raise awareness for the latency period, we'll explain, the other person explodes or shuts you out, or puts the blame on you for quote unquote making conflict when they believe conflict shouldn't exist? Is there a way to work through that, or is that a sign the relationship isn't worth continuing? So Emilia and I gave that a shot. If you were there, this will be some stuff you've already heard, but we're going to go deeper. We're going to answer that question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like Alan had mentioned, this entire question, again, it's multiple fold. So we're going to try to unpack it. But the through line here is attaching to what we said at the very beginning per my intentions, which is conflict you have and hold a belief. So you and your partner, right? Do you hold a belief that conflict in it of itself is bad? What it sounds like with this question is that the person asking it really does believe that conflict is good and necessary and holds the belief that it is a privilege to be able to work through that because you can co-construct the house of your relationship to be better off while you navigate it. And it sounds like this listener and this community member is or has dealt with someone who does not inherently believe that conflict is good, instead believes that it's bad.
So this person, we're not certain because we haven't met this person, but we deduced most likely that this other person has an unconscious or subconscious belief that relationships should be easy, that if it's the right person for you, there shouldn't be conflict.
Yeah.
Sort of that sitcom version of male-female relationship where you kind of brush everything under the it should just work.
Yeah.
It should just work.
Right.
And so the female in the relationship, the one at the Relationship Talks event, is really struggling with that because, quite frankly, if you're not willing to ever confront any conflict ever, you can't address when you're not on the same page and therefore get onto the same page. And you can't really build anything. That's like trying to renovate a house without tearing down the kitchen first. You have to tear down what was already there so that you can rebuild it stronger. I think that's a great phoenix burns down from the ashes to rise anew. It's a metaphor for a reason. You have to have that happen. And if you think that it should just work, obviously you're not very growth oriented, and that's facts.
And you're in trouble in that arena. So what Alan had mentioned in the event and highlighted that I'm going to actually pull back into this before I go into the 3 phases of conflict that we helped our community really understand, is the fact that this person who, and I quote, doesn't believe that conflict should exist. That belief inherently means that their behavior is sweeping things underneath the rug. And so that is exemplary of a fixed mindset. So growth and fixed mindsets are in relationships all the time. We see that happening. You usually have one person that's hyper growth oriented that are at these Relationship Talks events or that are listening to these podcasts because they genuinely hold that belief that growing is good, change is good.
We can improve. We can improve
Absolutely.
Ourselves. We can improve each other. We can improve our relationship.
Right. But then you also have that person end up being with someone who's more fixed mindset than they would like them to be because of the fact that they really don't, and you highlighted this, and so feel free to jump in here, but they probably don't believe within themselves so that they can actually change. So this person who doesn't believe that conflict should exist in a relationship is actually so naive to the fact that they have low self-belief and likely low self-worth, and their cover-up for that is actually the sentiment that conflict shouldn't exist. Therefore, any effort that this partner is trying to go near it and highlight what she had said in the latency phase, we're starting to boil up kind of this conflict is starting to arise. And I want to show that to you so that we can do something about it because I care so deeply about this relationship. If someone who has low self-worth and low self-belief gets kind of illuminated to something that they don't believe that they can change, or they don't believe that that should exist, it's going to feel like an uphill battle. And that's what we had mentioned to this person in the Relationship Talks event. And so anything to add on that before I kind of jump into the phases?
I want to try to go to the root here. A fixed mindset is someone who unconsciously does not believe that they can change or that they can improve, or that the relationship can change, or that the relationship can improve. And a lot of times that is masked in there shouldn't be conflict, because it's almost like they're pretending we shouldn't have to change.
Or projecting it on that person as if they're the problem, which is what is happening
That's
here.
what's happening here.
Yeah.
So this person who asked the question, we'll keep it anonymous always. These are private events. But the person who's asking is basically having their partner point the finger at them, when in reality the partner feels stuck because they don't feel the ability to actually improve the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so for anyone listening or watching this, that's what the Conscious Couples podcast was built for people with a growth mindset who say, you know what, listen, there's certain parts about me I don't want to change, but I can be the best version of me.
Mm-hmm.
I can be a better version of me. And when I'm a better version of me, the we gets better. And I want to be with someone who wants to put in time and effort to become better, because when the me's become better, the we becomes better, the relationship becomes better. I mean, this relationship is everyone right now out there watching or listening. Think about your first relationship in your teens.
Mm-hmm.
It was garbage in comparison. And if it wasn't, that's a red flag. My relationship in my teens was awful compared to this.
Same.
Because I was less developed and my partner was less developed, and therefore the me's could not co-create a bigger, better, brighter we, because we had a fixed mindset more so than now.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is a spectrum. So 0 means fully fixed, 10 means fully growth. No one's fully 10 and no one's fully 0. It's in between.
Yeah.
Although if I had to pick a 10, it would be you. But at the end of the day, and then one more piece that I want to make very clear here. There's a lot of people who hoodwink us when it comes to fixed and growth mindset. I've been so confused by this my whole life. How can someone improve their house and improve their car and improve their
social status
and improve their resume and improve their whatever boat, but
material things,
but they can't improve themselves? That, I think, is the tell. I used to think, well, they are improvement oriented.
Mm-hmm.
No. There's a big difference between being improvement oriented and then being self-improvement oriented.
Yes.
Everyone out there watching or listening, please, please, please think of someone who improves their car, improves their home, improves their social status, improves processes, or improves
social media,
new kitchen, new lighting, new paint on the wall,
travel,
with social media, travel, whatever it is, but they don't improve themselves. That means that person most likely has a self-improvement fixed mindset. And that is very different than a global fixed mindset, which is I can't improve anything or anything around me either. So some people can improve things externally, but really can't look inward.
Right.
And that's the danger zone, in my opinion, for relationships, because I was with someone who struggled to look inward and everything felt like my fault. And that just sucked.
Hey everyone, this is Alicia Romanowitz. I wanted to take a second and give a shout out to Alan and Emilia. I've been listening to Next Level University podcast for a while now, and I've also joined in on group coaching and book club, and I've gained so much value from these. And recently, I have started listening to the Conscious Couple podcast, and then joined in on their monthly meetups with relationship talks. And from here, my wife and I decided to jump on a call with them, and we had a few questions. This has just been a great experience. They not only provided us with some great tips and things to implement, they also got back with us and to check and see how we were doing. And that has just meant so much to my wife and I. And I just really wanted to give a shout out and thank them so much. And if you haven't had a chance to listen to the podcast or join in on the relationship talks, I highly recommend that. And also just jump on a call with them and get to know them a little bit better and just really lean into this resource. It's just been so valuable and I really appreciate it.
So that's where what we had said, well articulated, babe, because that I think a lot of people see what you just expressed, but they don't know how to communicate that to themselves. That gives them what they really need, the affirmation that they really need to like think clearly and decide whether or not they want to continue the relationship, whether they want to stick it out and kind of wait and see if someone will change, or if they're just gaslighting themselves the whole time. And then they'll find out 10 years later that like they should have never been in that relationship because that one person was never self-improvement interested, oriented, or felt capable, and thereby as a result they stuck in a relationship
had to
way too
project
long.
Everything outward, because if there's a problem and you can't unconsciously look inward and improve self, you have to blame something external.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's because the kitchen is hot, or it's because you are dramatic, or it's because, like, there's always going to be blame, because really what that person's saying without saying it is, I don't believe in myself. I don't believe in my ability to transform. I don't believe in my ability to change. And I'm too afraid to try because I'm too afraid to fail, because if I do try and fail, I'm going to look bad and lose my social status.
Right.
And then my Porsche won't be as valuable. I'm
lose
kidding.
all the externals that I've improved. So what would that mean about me? And that gets to a really deep-seated challenge. And this is what I had said in answering that. And then I'll kind of transition to the 3 phases, because I think that it's really important for the listeners to understand what that is. You cannot change someone. And that's something that I find when people are in relationships that, let's say one person believes that conflict is a good thing and the other person just doesn't. That all of what we just explained, what's underneath that is someone doesn't want to change and grow and improve. And it might not be a malicious belief that they hold, but deep down that they need to want to change themselves before they're actually going to do any improvement in this arena. And sometimes I know the person who is really growth oriented and self-improvement oriented really struggles accepting that, because they want to believe that that person will change for them or change at the sake of the relationship. When truth be told, sometimes it's actually the split of the relationship, or you going your way, sticking to the higher road, continuing your growth journey, that actually gives them enough pain to look inwardly to actually say, wait a second, like, let me reevaluate my belief system and what I actually do think about what you've been saying the whole time. And so this person won't change on their own
That's actually
accord.
been a fear that many of my clients have identified too, is I know that if I leave him or her, they are going to transform.
Right.
And that's what I always wanted.
Right.
But ironically, paradoxically, they're not going to transform. So not only are you afraid to leave them and be alone, but now you're afraid to watch them have this huge transformational post-traumatic growth that they then after the fact became everything you always wanted.
And then you have to watch it with someone else too. They're doing that with someone else. I literally just got off a coaching call talking about that.
That is, truth be told, you have to do it anyway. Either that or stay stuck forever, which we don't really advocate for.
Exactly. That's
Settling isn't for this podcast.
No, definitely not. So the 3 phases of conflict that we talked about in the event: latency phase, awareness phase, and growth phase.
Let's bring this to a tangible example. Okay, so latency phase. Let's say Emilia or I are doing something that annoys each other. Okay, that's the latency phase. It's building beneath the surface. Neither one of us is fully aware of it yet, but it's kind of like getting to the point where it might be a conflict.
Let's talk about like the rice cooker, making dinner. Okay. All right. So the latency phase happens before dinner, right?
All right.
Every single day we usually have dinner. One of us usually is kitchen man or kitchen woman.
Yep.
And the prep of dinner, there might be something that goes off with the rice, right? So that's
usually it has to do with standards. So I have a higher standard for the experience of our food. Emilia will eat leftovers and whatever. She just puts it down. I want it to be a nice meal because it's the only thing I get all day. I'm joking, but I need it to be nice. Emilia will struggled for a long time to put the proper amount of rice in the rice cooker. So I either had too much food or too little food. And too much means leftovers, which I hate, especially rice. Ugh. Or too little means hungry bear, Alan. Okay, so again, there were nights after nights after nights after nights where she would try to do a wonderful thing and provide food for us and cook, and it's not exactly her forte.
Definitely not.
And usually it took a long time for it to get to the point where it was to my standard.
Yeah.
Now,
long time, guys. Again, and he's being very nice. It was a long time.
That's not me from my ivory tower. How dare you not make perfect food? Like, that's not what it is.
Not at all.
But it was brewing, and eventually I would have to tell her, like, babe, the rice is this amount, please. And so there was frustration building. Okay. Usually frustration builds when one partner has a higher standard than the other and the other person can't meet their standards.
And they don't know how to communicate it. Here's the key word. They don't know how to communicate it to themselves and to others. So you learned a lot about yourself in my screwing everything up.
Well, I didn't realize how much I value that.
Exactly.
Because, whoa. And normally what do we do when we have a high standard? We do it all ourselves.
Did we kind of do that in the
and then that builds resentment too, because now why do I always have to do?
Right.
Because I'm the one with the higher standard. So rather than actually confront the conflict and have a vulnerable, courageous, humble conversation with you, and you come up, again, implying growth mindset, can you improve?
Yep.
I'll just do it myself.
Right.
I'll just do it myself. And then that's the worst idea ever from a leadership long-term perspective. And that goes into business and all that other stuff. Okay. So that's the latency period.
So the latency phase, how you identify it is really, it's the before the conflict that usually you're not consciously aware of what's going on. So
I think it feels like frustration. What do you think? It feels
like frustration. Also, I really want to encourage people to tune into their physiology. So we had said increased heart rate. You're usually not really looking at your heart rate monitor on your Apple Watch or whatever, but notice like you're starting to feel tension in your body. And that tension usually consciously expresses itself in terms of frustration. Yep. So if you're feeling tight in your body, again, shift the focus into how your body state is, how your physiology is. Maybe you're getting sweaty palms, or maybe you feel nervous to even engage with your partner, right? Whether it be about dinner or whether it be about something bigger, but your body's telling you signs. And that's when you know you're in the latency period.
Okay.
When you transition over to the awareness phase, which is when the trigger comes in, and usually the conflict is right there, you can't run around it. That's when things start to change from your physiology is building to holy crap, you're here. It's going to explode. You're going to calmly communicate, or you're going to ooze out in expression.
Okay. In the event, we used anger management as the movie to reference this. And there's a scene on the plane where they're like, calm down, sir. He's like, I'm calm. I'm totally calm. He's like, I tell you again to calm down. He's like, I'm calm. So that's when he became aware. And if he had recognized how angry he was getting prior to that, he might have been able to emotionally regulate better. Okay. Yeah. Last stage.
This is response. So we chose the word response because usually we just react to conflict.
So react versus response needs to be very clearly articulated. Go ahead.
When it comes to reaction, you don't have a conscious choice of how you react. That's why people usually avoid conflict. When you respond, you get to choose how you respond. So usually you're acting either in integrity or out of integrity with who you want to be.
So react is, I'm calm.
I'm calm.
Response is, honestly, I'm triggered. You're frustrating me by telling me to calm down when I'm really calm. And I'd like to not participate anymore in this conversation right now. I need a minute.
Yeah.
That's respond. And that's in alignment. So here's what happens. I'm going to go quick because I know we got to jump. I think what happens in relationships is unconsciously we suppress the frustration long enough to where eventually it builds up and it's like a volcano.
Which creates artificial harmony and then that.
Yes, artificial harmony, meaning everything's good, totally fine. They never fight. No. They're about to boil over and it's about to be not just a fight, but potentially divorce.
Yep.
So we suppress. Then we explode. Once we explode, we get stuck in shame.
Yep.
And then what do we do to compensate? Suppress, even bigger explosion.
Or love bomb.
And
never address the issue.
Yes, exactly. And love bomb is, I'm so sorry, I love you, I'll never do it again. Then you do it again, and then you get stuck in shame again. It's the whole thing. So the healthy way to work on conflict, and if you want to work on this more, Relationship Talks Coaching is the place, because this we could give a week-long seminar on, and by we, I mean you, and I'll co-pilot.
Definitely. Too.
But the healthy way to do this is to recognize the latency stage, recognize and catch the awareness stage earlier, and the triggers that trigger you, like someone saying calm down, huge trigger. Me calling you dramatic that one time was a huge trigger, right? And then responding instead of reacting. And that's a skill that has to be developed over time. If you've ever seen a kid screaming into a pillow or overreacting or throwing a hissy fit, a lot of times adults are still like that. Okay? We cannot be adult children. We must grow up, and that requires a growth mindset, excellent food, I'm kidding, and being able to identify these stages. Anything else that you want to add, babe?
I think that's great. Everything else is in Relationship Talks Coaching.
Okay, so Relationship Talks Coaching, best thing ever of all time. We have a hybrid model where we do one-on-ones with the male, female. It doesn't have to be that way if you're a same-sex couple. Seriously though, it's a hybrid model, very cool. We have that, and that's at a discounted rate. And then we have the one-on-one. We do monthly, we do bi-weekly, and we do weekly. Reach out. It's absolutely going to not only increase the odds of you and your partner having a healthy, magnificent, fulfilling relationship, but also we're going to help you achieve your goals and dreams. Work on a team towards your building your future that you both want. I mean, that's really the magnificent part about Relationship Talks Coaching.
Facts.
And that is all I have to say about that.
Yes. Also, while you're in the show notes, go ahead and click to register for our next Relationship Talks live virtual free event. It's going to be all things how to prevent devices from destroying your relationship. So let's say you and your partner are trying to go to bed. One partner's on your phone, Are you going to say, oh, shoot, they're choosing their phone over me again? Or are you going to have a really healthy dialogue around that? That's what we're going to get into, for lack of better words, in that event, because devices are destroying relationships. And that is the truth of the matter.
If you've ever sat there and wanted the attention of your partner, and they've been deep in their device, scrolling on whatever platform, and it feels like their social media is more important to them than you, we've all been there, at least to some extent. And in you and I's case, it's more work than anything.
Yeah.
But that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how to make sure that that does not erode your love.
So, third Thursday of July, 5 p.m. EST. The link to register is in the show notes, and we cannot wait to see you there.
37th event in a row. Okay, thank you so much. As always, thank you for listening. We appreciate you. Bring your partners into these episodes. This is how you improve your relationship. Make sure they're growth mindset. If they're not, they might not like us or the podcast, and they might give us a bad review. If you haven't liked or shared or reviewed the show, please do give us a review. If you don't like the show, please don't, because we don't want to hear it. I'm kidding. No, we do want feedback. All feedback is welcome. Yeah. Thank you for listening. And as always, it's not about you or me. It's about the we. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Conscious Couples podcast. We love connecting with the Conscious Couples community, so please make sure you follow us on Instagram. I am at Evolve with Emilia, and Alan is Lazaros88.
Also, if you or your partner resonated with this episode, leave us a review at the link in the show notes, and please share this with someone you love and care about.
Until next time, remember, it's not about you or me. It's about
the we.